Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the episode 2 of Icebox podcast here. Introducing Nolan Bernard.
What's up, boys? Yeah, I'm Nolan Bernard. I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're here at my river house on the river, up here in I guess we're in the Appalachian Trail. So, yeah.
Excited to have you on, man. He's my teammate from East Cobb Astros National, actually. Super excited to have him on. Typically on this podcast, we have this thing called the Icebreakers, which is typically a question of the day. Kind of breaks the ice, you get it? But the question is, and either of you can answer this as well, what is the best piece of advice you have ever been given?
So back when I was 11, 12 years old, I think I was 11, I went down to Plant City, Florida, down kind of in between Orlando and Tampa, to this place called the Florida Baseball Armory. Now it was the Florida Baseball Ranch when I first went there, and just kind of on the back of every shirt, they have this saying that they kind of live by. It's called "Embrace the Suck." So it's just kind of been a life motto to live by. You know, I'm a swimmer as well as a baseball player. I was an All-American swimmer this last year. My team was second in the nation. And so that sport's hard, and I mean, it just goes over to like everyday training, every day, just kind of embracing the hard parts of life, embracing the crappy parts, because it just makes like the great parts of like, it makes winning amazing. It makes every positive area of life amazing. Just like those grinding parts, just in the weight room, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's just throwing on a day you don't want to throw, just getting up and doing the work, even when you don't want to, just really embracing the suck of that. It's been big in swimming for me. It's been big in just kind of my entire life, whether it's school, baseball, working out, just kind of embracing it throughout all of life.
That's great because, you know, baseball, man, it's a failure sport, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you fail 7 out of 10 times, you got to find some success.
Yeah. Well, I'm on the mound, so hopefully
true,
I'm not failing.
It's a little bit different.
Hey, I feel that too. As a fellow PO on this podcast, I do feel that.
Yeah, so hopefully I'm failing a little bit less than you are. But no, it's still definitely a game of failure. And I mean, you're going to get rocked sometimes in the mound.
For sure, man.
By teams that just straight up beat you. Sometimes you beat yourself. And I mean, there's nothing you can do about it but go out there and hit it next time.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, you know, baseball is as much mental as it is physical. And I just found it interesting that you took more of a, I'd say mental approach with, you know, your philosophy on that. But, you know, you're not committed yet.
I'm not committed.
And he is on East Cobb Astros National, guys. He's not committed and is on East Cobb Astros National. I just wanted you to take us through your current state in recruiting and the schools that you are interested in or that are interested in you. Yeah.
Yeah, so actually we do have uncommitted players. It's me and one other player. A
solid two of them. Of a whole roster.
A solid 2 out of the 27 kids we have in our roster. So recruiting's been really weird for me. So I was kind of a animal when I was 13 years old. I was way bigger than everybody. I was throwing harder than everybody. And kind of my 13, 14, 15-year-old season, I was just absolutely tearing through everybody. I was progressing really fast because I grew faster than everybody. And so I got up into the upper 8s pretty early into the 15U year, and I went down to that PG World Series down in Stanford, Florida. And I popped an 89 in front of Oregon, Stanford and Alabama. Stanford and Alabama were kind of my 2 first ones, and I actually really, really love Stanford. So I grew up out there in Half Moon Bay when my dad was in residency. So Stanford kind of had a special place in my heart, but I just knew I couldn't go 2,000 miles away from home. So I kind of laid back on committing early. And I think that was a good choice for me because I don't think I would have been happy playing in the ACC for Stanford, flying across the country all the time, which doesn't make sense that Stanford's in the ACC, but that's another conversation for a different day.
Conference realignment, we love it.
Yeah, right. Conference and so Alabama was kind of my favorite early on. I mean, my dad went there, played baseball there, was on their 97 College World Series team with his older brother, and my mom swam there. She was on the Olympic track, ended up becoming just short. And so Alabama kind of held a special place in my heart. And then their coach fired himself, as we say. Decided to gamble his entire
wrote his own death note.
Yeah, seriously. Gambled his entire salary against his team, which that's a recipe for failure usually.
I mean, I don't understand that. That's insane to me.
Yeah,
That really is unbelievable.
Yeah.
No, it made absolutely no sense to me. And the guy he pulled out of the lineup was one of like a guy I knew. It was their Friday night guy, Luke Holman, and now he's at LSU, absolutely tearing it up.
He was at LSU having a fantastic career.
He's going to be a second rounder this year.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that just didn't make any sense to me.
But anyway, pivoting back to what?
Pivoting back. So then new coach came in from Maryland, picked up a few guys not named Nolan Bernard, and he just didn't really have any interest in me, and he hasn't yet. I mean, he can always come back around. But yeah, so Vaughn hasn't had much interest, but kind of recently I realized, hey, maybe I need to work a little harder because 89 ain't going to cut it. So I went back down to the Florida Baseball Armory, as you were saying. Aiden, you said you were down there right now. But so I went back down there for a couple weeks. I went there in between Fort Myers and Jupiter, and I went back down in January. I completely redid my program. When I went back down in January, I was up to 93. And so the Florida Baseball Armory sent my stuff out everywhere. UCF was the biggest to come out of that, UCF in Oklahoma. They sent my stuff to UCF. I sent my stuff to Oklahoma. So UCF has been really big on me down in Orlando. It's beautiful. One of the biggest schools in the country. Yeah. A lot of pretty women down there. Fantastic facilities. And it's enough outside of Orlando. I'm not a big city guy. Honestly, like I committed to Tennessee. Like Knoxville's too big for me. Like I kind of like being outside of the city. And so I loved UCF. I haven't gotten out to Norman yet, which is probably my favorite right now. I got a bunch of connections with coaches. So their recruiting coordinator, Todd Butler, recruited my dad and his brother to the University of Alabama when he was a young coach. Now he's on back half of his career recruiting me out to Oklahoma. And then their hitting coach, Reggie Willits, he's been kind of credited with a lot of success of their program. He buys a ton of cattle from us. We have a cattle farm up here. And so I just got a ton of connections out there and just really like it. But those were kind of the two I talked throughout the spring. And then first summer ball tournament, Perfect Game does a great job getting his players recruited. They tweeted me out, just kind of bumping up to 93, and a ton of schools followed me. I mean, that tweet got 50,000 views. I got reached out to by 20 different programs, a lot of JUCO, really high-level JUCO, and then a lot of high-level D1s, anywhere from Florida State. Texas has been kind of on me recently. And I mean, Texas is Texas, man. I mean, Austin's a hell of a town. They got crazy NIL opportunities. It's just one of a kind. So just kind of been slow balling it, just kind of waiting until fall, kind of waiting for everybody to see me in WWA up here in the next 2 weeks. So just kind of seeing everything kind of through. I'd really like to go see FSU. My cousin Shelby McKenzie is the number 2 ranked softball player in the class of 24, and she's going to FSU for softball. So I'd really like to look in there. It's close enough to home. I kind of really like to stay closer to home if I could. I mean, if Oklahoma's the best for my baseball career, I'm going to have to do that. But preferably, I'd like to stay a little closer to home. My parents can come out. I got a really supportive family. I mean, my family's been paying for the Armory since I was 12, 11 years old. And so like my parents have done everything to support me throughout all of this. And I'm just kind of looking for a place that really wants me and that I'm going to be able to get playing time in as a freshman and hopefully develop. I'm 2-year draft eligible. So hopefully I can become a weekend guy as a sophomore and maybe get drafted after my sophomore year.
Wow, man. That's a great philosophy on the recruiting process, man. Seriously.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the jump from 89 to 93, right? Yeah. I'm curious because I kind of have a noodle arm on what it takes, to do that, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of it, you have the physical tools clearly. I mean, you can hit a ball 112, 113 miles an hour, so you can rotate well. A lot of it I felt for me was a flexibility thing. So my mobility has kind of gone through up and down because like I grew in such spurts. Like I grew from like 5 foot to 5'9", and then like straight from 5'9" to like 6'2". And so just like for me, it was a flexibility and athleticism thing. So last year I was 210 pounds and I was fat, and that wasn't really helpful for throwing hard. And so I swam this entire year, got down to about 190. So fairly like ripped. And then I built back up muscle. I probably gained 20 pounds of muscle. So just trying to gain like mobility and muscle. So like for me, I thought deadlifts and split squats were a big thing for me. So I can't put a bar on my back due to an injury I have. So I thought just finding any way to move in like a one-legged formula, like anything like split squats, you do like jumping. So I thought a lot of moving diagonally. Like I have a water bag. I think that's really helpful rotationally. So I do like a lot of med ball throws and whatnot. So just finding it. But I mean, you clearly rotate well. So I would honestly just say for you, long tossing. Like just being able to stretch that arm out and just letting it rip. I mean, your body is going to naturally try to find the most efficient motion because that's what's easiest on your arm.
Right.
So trying to stretch that out and see what your most efficient arm path is going to be what's most helpful for you. And especially as an outfielder, I mean, you don't care how hard you throw off the mound. You want to pull that ball down.
Right.
So doing a couple pull downs on your way back in, just absolutely gripping and ripping. I think like different sized balls. That sounded a little weird. Just different weighted balls, but not like too heavy. I would say like go to a 4, go to a 6, go to a 7, and just being able to work your arm in different points, and it'll organize your body in the most efficient way.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Your body's going to find a way to organize itself. And, you know, you're saying you train at the Armory, and that's what their big thing is. Is like, it's not training mechanics. It's training, like, different types of movements. And, you know, it's like you said, like, you know, Nate, like, you've got the body to be able to throw hard. Your body's got to find the most efficient way to do it. So finding different lifts and ways to throw, different, you know, arm angles to throw from, I think that's the biggest thing.
Absolutely.
I found it interesting how you were talking about, you know, more of the lifting like aspect from more of a lifting standpoint, because typically for me, when you see all these, you know, videos on Instagram and stuff, it's mostly how hard can you pull down one, or how hard can you do these plyo balls or heavy balls, right? Yeah. And I just found it interesting because, you know, lifting and throwing hard, I guess, kind of correlate, right? But
it's not a direct correlation.
Right. Absolutely. That's what I was trying to, so like.
I think that's the biggest misconception on social media. And I think that, you know, you as a pitcher can attest to this as well, is you open TikTok or you open Twitter and it's like, you deadlift 500 pounds, you're going to throw 95.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes it's those guys that deadlift 300 for reps, but have the mobility of some of the best in the country, are the guys that throw the hardest. And those misconceptions on social media, I'm sure, are so frustrating for you guys that are going to play at these higher levels, because sometimes it's just like, I mean, what does that even mean, right? Like,
so do you think you can throw hard with just doing plyo balls?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. I think
either.
plyo balls are a good tool to use to clean up mechanics. I don't think anybody trying to throw plyo balls hard, I think that's just like, as you said, pull down, throwing plyo balls hard. I think that's a really good way to get hurt. I mean, those guys down at the Armory think the same thing.
Absolutely.
Like loading your arm with double the weight that it needs to in a layback position, that's just going to cause so much unnecessary stress on your UCL.
And your body is going to protect itself. Like, it's not going to, you know, over time, like that UCL and that bicep and your forearm, like your body is always looking to protect itself. So if you're constantly throwing at 100% intensity with these weighted balls, I mean, one, you might peak velocity super fast, but then you're going to either watch it plateau or drop. And two, you're going to get hurt because your body wants to protect itself more than it wants to throw hard. So I think that weighted balls, I think that weighted balls are the biggest misconception in the baseball world.
So
for sure.
Would you say weighted balls are more of like a warm-up kind of philosophy? Like, because typically before every, you know, travel game around here, and personally weighted balls have helped me a lot because I was injured with my UCL. But I think that, you know, being able to go from a, I guess, 6-ounce ball to throwing a normal baseball is a good, you know, like in doing the J bands and stuff like that.
For sure. So I think Tyler would probably agree with me here. So like kind of what they say is just do something that, like, if it works for you, it's going to work for you. Right. But there's no reason to crazy load when there's not really a necessary help. Like weighted balls can be super helpful, but it's mostly for organizing the body and putting your body in a different position. So your body has to organize the split-second decision between a 7-ounce ball and a 5-ounce ball, which isn't, you wouldn't think it's a huge difference, but that's a 40% difference in the weight of the ball. Yeah. And so your body
and the different types of energy, like your body is transferring from movement to movement.
And so you just kind of have to find the way to organize your body as quickly. And so most of what they use weighted balls for, I mean, most of your body, your legs are really strong. It's mostly organizing your arm path And so like the rest of your body is usually not going to change, or at least it shouldn't change. But just feeling your arm, because so they use the analogy of welder, like a hammer.
Okay.
And so you never take the same path to the nail every time, but you still have to hit the nail. So it's just finding the way that you can hit the nail, can throw the ball.
Interesting.
Just whatever works best for you. And you have to find out how to do that through a little bit different mechanics every single time. You want to be similar, and you want to have pillars that you try to do as close to the same every time. But no one pitch is ever going to be the same.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's why you see fluctuations of velocity and whatnot.
Right.
You have to find the way to organize your body successfully the most you can.
Interesting. I think, speaking of the analogy of that hammer that you said, I saw something on 108 Performance in Knoxville or something. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I
think we've got some Providence guys training there. So
yeah.
I think it is 108.
Yeah. They throw bowling pins in for a way to get like a consistent arm path. I don't know if you guys agree on that.
So the Armory does something a little similar. I don't know. Have you ever thrown a club?
So that's actually, it's funny you say that. So I'm throwing a club right now. I'm about to enter week 3. So I've dropped the club reps down to 2 and I think 4 baseball throws. But it's kind of the same thing, Nate. It's like, it's not trying to create the same arm path. It's trying to create kind of the idea of like the most consistent arm path. Like, cause it's like you just said, everyone is going to be different, but like the club and like these throwing pins and create like the most similarity between arm paths.
So I'm going to put a little plug for the Army right here. I've actually never thrown a club.
Okay.
So it's kind of, they do a little different for every person. So I was more of a connection ball kid when I was a little smaller. And it was just cleaning up that arm path. My arm path has usually been very positive for me. It's mostly cleaning up other things in my body.
Okay.
And so like, they're going to try to change it different for him than they are for me, because we're built different. We're going to be throwing way different. And so the way that they do that and the way that they make it so individualized is so helpful, I think. For them, I mean, it's definitely like, he ain't going to train like I am. I'm not going to train like he is.
Right.
And I kind of like that difference. And I mean, it's definitely way away from what a lot of high school training is like.
I agree.
And I would say I know at Macaulay, I got hurt because we were lifting swimmers like we were lifting football players.
Right.
I mean,
can't do that. Yeah.
It's not helpful to anybody.
Yeah.
And so I really like just the more individualized concept they take. And so the club, as he said, used to clean up arm path. I did different things to clean up more my lower body. Because my lower body was going all over the place when I was little.
Right.
So it was just the different ways you have to train.
Yeah. It's like he said a couple minutes ago. It's like these tools, you've got the throwing pins, the clubs, the connection balls, the plyo balls. All those things are great. But at the end of the day, they're just tools to accomplish efficient bodily movements for pitchers is what they are. It's like he was using a connection ball, and a couple years ago I wasn't using a club, and my body has organized itself to where I now have a stabby arm motion, so now I am using a club. So it's these different tools that can help you get your body in a place to move efficiently, but you can't rely on them solely to see these results that you want to see.
For sure.
That's interesting, because that leads me to propose a question of, is the mechanical standpoint of pitching more important than arm strength, right? Because I see nowadays, people build arm strength as much as they can. I'm sorry, I'm asking you guys these, but I know you're both pitchers, and I'm trying. We
got some great pitchers in the call today. We got to ask them all the pitching questions.
That's what I'm saying. I gotta get any little minute more velocity I can on, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, sure. Because I feel like nowadays, back then Nolan Ryan was gifted with an arm. That's why he could throw 105.
You don't say
that is one way to put Nolan Ryan.
Gifted
with an arm.
Maybe just a little gifted.
Yeah. I feel like nowadays guys are figuring out, and it kind of goes back to what you said about the individual thing. Like, people can dissect your mechanics to where they're perfect, and you can throw 90 just based on mechanics, right? So I just wanted to hear your standpoint on, is arm strength more important than mechanics?
So I feel like those two things go a little bit hand in hand. You're not going to have an elite arm strength without good mechanics. Like, arm strength, like when you think about it, is how far you can throw. You're not going to throw far unless your mechanics are good.
Right.
And so, like, the best way I can put this is my dad, he pitched at the University of Alabama. He was a mid-80s righty, but his brother threw 93. But my dad could out long toss him. He could out bench him. He could out do everything. So his arm was stronger, but he didn't put it together on the mound. So I think they can coincide a little bit. So my dad could throw harder.
Right.
He just couldn't figure it out on the mound. So I feel like the arm strength perspective is very important. So I feel like that can give you a baseline of what you can do.
Right.
But then you still have to figure out how to put it together on the mound. And so a lot of it is mechanical. A lot of it is how your body's oriented and how you're working with your body. I mean, I know for Baseball Army, we do a big thing with our hips. I'm externally rotated hips. Okay. So I'm going to open up a little bit earlier. Right. So I have to figure out how to stay back while still opening up my hips, because if I'm closed, I'm not getting everything out of my torso.
Interesting.
So it's just finding the way, like, your body works. So, I mean, you talk about it, how Nolan Ryan threw 105. Well, everybody thought it was God-gifted then.
Right.
And it was for Nolan Ryan because we didn't know what we were talking about with mechanics. And now everybody's figuring out, like, if I was throwing 93 back in the 1980s, I'm a first-round pick back then. Now, I mean,
now you're signing a free agent contract.
Yeah, like now I'm like trying to find a college to go to, and I'm like way later than everybody on the college side because everybody's throwing 93 with nasty stuff. And so we're figuring out how to individualize it. Where back then, we just kind of lifted heavy, threw far, and if you figured it out, you were God gifted. And if not, no, it was just the way we were working kids back then. It was cookie cutter. And if your body fit into the mold of what that was going to do well, then you were going to be really successful.
Right.
And if it didn't fit into that mold, it wasn't going to be successful. So, like, my dad wasn't successful, his brother was. So.
Right.
I think cookie cutter is a great way to put that. That's, it's great.
So when you were talking about, how everybody throws 90 these days, I kind of wanted to venture into segment 3. Okay. And that is saying, what got you into baseball and what are your thoughts on the current state of baseball and where it's at right now at the college or pro level or both?
Okay, so what got me into baseball was, of course, my dad. My dad played baseball at the University of Alabama. And then, so he, as he says, threw hard enough to go to med school. So he got his school.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great right there. That's great.
So he was like, I was not good enough to throw a baseball for professionally. He married my mom out of Alabama. And so he went to med school, trained to be a doctor, ended up going to UT med school and then Tulane for a little bit. That's where I got my name out of Katrina. That's where I got my name from. Our house was destroyed in Katrina. And then we're back to UT for Campbell Clinic and then out to Stanford. So that's actually really where I got my start in baseball. I played T-ball out there in California. My T-ball facility was literally right on the beach, right where they film like the Pennzoil and all those commercials out there. It's beautiful. And so that's kind of my first start. And my first coach, I'm blanking on his name. I don't know. I was 5 years old. He was.
You mean you don't remember? You don't
remember your coach when you were 5 years old?
Yeah. So, I remember some stuff from out there, but I don't remember. But I know he was a shortstop at Georgia when my dad was playing at Bama. Okay. And so they knew each other and they helped coach. So, I was coached by 2 SEC coaches for my T-ball experience.
That's pretty legit.
I reckon that'll play.
That'll play for T-ball. Right. And so that's kind of where I got my start. We moved back to Tennessee. And then I honestly got kind of way out of baseball when I was little. I was a bigger kid, mostly fat. And so I was a beast on the O-line. And I was
push some kids around.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And I really love football. I loved hitting people. And so that's kind of where I went more throughout my youth. I still always kept up baseball just because I thought it made my dad proud originally, because my dad was a college baseball player. And so I kind of did it out of like just to do it for him for a while. Yeah. And then when I got to around 11, I quit football, just mostly focused on swim and baseball. Honestly, more swim then. I was a really good swimmer then. And so I just kind of kept working on that and baseball. And then, so I was a catcher throughout my younger years because I could not throw a strike on the mound. Okay. I had absolutely no clue where it was going. I was throwing absolute ched for that age, but I had no clue where it was going.
So you were the kid that all of us who weren't very good at hitting were scared of.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's not fun.
The kid that threw hard, but it could also be going at your ribs.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. So I was a really, really, really good catcher then. And I was always really good behind the plate. So I kind of stayed behind the plate until I was 12 years old. And then one day I have no clue what happened. I think it was the armory helped a lot with just making my mechanics more consistent. I just learned how to throw strikes. And so my dad, literally from the time I was 8, so I think there's a misconception in baseball where teaching breaking balls at a young age is dangerous. I think teaching breaking balls wrong at a young age is really dangerous.
Yep, couldn't agree more.
So like my dad, his best pitch was a breaking ball. That was the only reason he made it to Bama. And so he taught me a curveball from the time I was 8 years old. And so I had always thrown a banger breaking ball, just could never locate a fastball, so it didn't really matter. And so my breaking ball was really, really elite. And so I was throwing, 76, 77 at 12.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Guys.
Well,
that's gas.
Yeah.
That is actually gas.
Because that was from a 50-foot mound, correct? Yeah. I mean, that's.
Oh, dude, that might have translated to like 90.
Yeah, that's not fun.
For sure.
Yeah,
so I was throwing for Exposure, a program here in Chattanooga. My dad was coaching. It was kind of the year before we turned to coach pit or like paid coaches. And so I kind of, from there on, I kind of pitched that whole year for Exposure. I was our ace as well as our catcher, which was fun on my arm, to say the least.
I bet it was.
And so then one time in Atlanta, so my cousin, Jackson McKenzie, just entered the transfer portal out of Mississippi State. He was an East Cobb Astro from the time he was 11, 12, 13. Started at 11. And he was like, hey, you're ready to go down to East Cobb. So I was pitching in a tournament in Atlanta against this team out of College Station called Texas 12. And they were top 15 team in the country then. And me and my little ratty team of Exposure kids went out there, and I threw 6 shutout innings against 12. Wow. And we somehow, that's the one game we won that entire tournament. And Wes Etheridge, he runs East Cobb Youth. I personally, in my opinion, the greatest travel baseball coach ever. He's coached Bryce Harper, Joey Gallo, Chris Bryant. I think he's coached more big leaguers than some big league managers have.
Wow. So he's coached some decent ball players.
He's coached a few decent ball players. Yeah. And he was not everybody's cup of tea. That was the first time I've ever been cussed at 12 years old. And I mean, he was down your throat, and he was on you. But I think I would not be the baseball player I am today without him. I mean, he was down your throat. He was hard on you, but I mean, he knew how to make a good baseball player out of you. And he saw that I was a PO, and here's how we saw as a PO. So my first tournament with East Cobb, I was at the PG World Series, and at 12U, it's at East Cobb. And I was facing this kid named Pauly Dominguez Walker.
Yep.
Who
MVP hustle.
At 12, lost his birth certificate coming across the Mexican border.
Right.
Had a full beard, and was throwing 84, 86.
Right.
So I
with
took
no documentation.
Wait, hold on. Let me just ask. Sorry to interrupt. Is that the Mexican border story actually like true?
No, that's like, so that is what his story is. It's actually kind of sad. Like he went to Select Fest with Jackson. He was like, at 13 U Select Fest, he's like, I think I'm 16. I don't know how old I am. Okay. Like I legitimately have no clue how old I am. My documentation is gone. And so I think he decommitted from Long Beach State. He's committed somewhere else now.
Yeah.
He's a great kid. But I stood up there after Ethan Murray, who's a Georgia Tech signee now, hit a bomb off this kid throwing 85 from 50 feet. And I stood up there and literally did not see the ball. I was like, yep, I'm going to go pitch now.
I like doing what he's doing. I don't like swinging the bat.
No. And so that same game I was still catching. So I went out there to catch after one of our catchers just got out. We had Jax Bishop on the mound, who was throwing also 84, 86 as a 12-year-old, as a legit 12-year-old. He was just a freak of nature. He's going to Tennessee now with you, Ice.
Yep.
One of my boys, he goes to Baylor right here down in Chattanooga now. So I stay with him a lot. And he hit my foot, and my foot hurt for a week. And so I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So then kind of from then on out, I was I was an East Cobb Astro for life. There was a point in 13U where RA tried to get me to co-play for his Mad Mavericks team. But since then, I've kind of just been East Cobb Astro for life. So, yeah. And then where are we with the college game? I want to hear your thoughts on this, Ice.
What do you mean?
Your thoughts on the college game.
Like the college game. Okay. You know, to me as a fan, I'm not going to lie to you, man. I love it because the amount of home runs is one of the most entertaining things.
Sucks for a pitcher. But,
right.
I mean,
but I mean, like at this point, like you said, how everybody's in the 9s, and honestly, in the SEC, they're approaching, triple digits.
Yeah, for sure.
These hitters,
every team has one.
Right.
Least.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think these hitters need a slight advantage. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, T, but
I don't know, man.
If
you can't have this conversation with these pitchers, man.
Here's my problem with that is I feel like at this point with the bats and how hard people are throwing, it's dangerous. Like, I feel like Christian Moore hitting a ball 117 miles an hour with a metal bat, that's dangerous. I mean, for a pitcher, I'm standing 60 feet away.
Yeah.
And I think there's a way to where we could make it a little, I don't know what the necessarily way to make it a little more balanced on both sides. Because, I mean, look, pitchers are gross. I don't know how you hit.
Right.
I mean, we were just at USA Baseball facing every arm was 92, 93.
I don't
know how you do it. I mean, I couldn't hit me. And so,
that's when you know you're good, is when you can.
Yeah, like I can't. And so, like, I think there's a way, but I honestly think like we're getting to a point where like playing third base and pitching is going to be dangerous in the college game. But oh my God, is it exciting watching that Tennessee game last night? Watching Christian Moore,
right?
Like,
see, and that's the thing where like it's tough to say that the hitters need an advantage when you've got Christian Moore hitting for the cycle before the 6th inning's even over, and
for real.
The final score is 12-11 in Omaha. So I think it's just like I don't know. I mean, we're getting to the point where it's just.
I think the bat
here's 100 miles an hour, and you get the barrel to it, it's going to leave the bat at 120. So,
right.
I honestly think it's more of a bat ball issue. The bats right now are not the original BB.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I
a little more.
I think we should deaden the ball and keep the bats hot.
Or you deaden the bat more and keep the ball.
Honestly, I think it'd be best if we
you've got to fix one of the two.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. Is the wood bat.
We
need to swing.
Would be, I think, best for the pro game because I think there are a lot of guys that aren't transferring from college.
Right.
I mean, we look at Dylan Cruz right now. He's rough. I mean, he is not looking good. And he was a beast at LSU with a metal bat.
I think, the wood bat neutralizes it. And we see it in summer ball. I mean, Carey, dude. We
got diced.
Right. I mean, we had 3 to 6 hits per game.
Yeah.
And they're all singles. Like that's. And,
it's just like it's with the metal bat, you get those like fluky singles, and with a wood bat, the bat snapped in half, and you're walking back to the dugout 0-for-1.
But I agree with what Nard, you said that the wood bats and all these colleges have these sponsorships nowadays, so the money it shouldn't be a factor. Like Tennessee, like because typically in summer ball you break a bat and you go to Better Baseball and buy 3 more bats.
So it's a money thing,
right?
Like, I think the NCAA would be more profitable if they had. And I know that's not what we should really be worrying about, but it's what they're worried about.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's all they care about. They don't care about the schools or athletes or anything.
It's the bottom line. Like, the fact they passed NIL is crazy. I can't believe they're letting them pay players. Like, that is a greedy organization. I probably shouldn't be clipped saying that. But,
Trust me, I promise you are not the only athlete in the country that thinks that.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, the wood bat would give them money. If you want the money, don't let them swing bomb bats. They're going to break bats. And if you make every level of baseball just wood, you're going to make a lot more money because they break and you're going to have to go buy a new one.
You mentioned bomb bats. Yeah. And I think that's the route. Bridges, I don't know if you know what a bomb bat is, but
explain it to me like I'm 5.
Yeah, so like typically, I don't know. Is the bomb bat has like the metal rod in the middle?
Yeah,
correct?
I was about to say. I thought it had like it's some. It might not be metal. Yeah, I think it is. It's some type of like solid rod through the middle where it's basically. I don't want to say it's a wood bat that doesn't break, but it's a wood bat that doesn't break.
Okay,
right.
I mean, it does, but it takes like 10,000 swings. It's more of a number.
It's like a ridiculous amount of time to break.
And that's what I think could neutralize it in college baseball, because you can't really break the bomb bat. You just buy 3 bomb bats and just in case. Yeah. And then, it's like it replaces a metal bat, right?
Okay, but see here, as good of an idea as it is, here's the main problem with that argument is that probably cuts the home runs by a fourth, if not in half, of what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I would agree.
I know, but college baseball is by far probably the least popular of the main college sports that we have. And I think that the more home runs that are hit, the more people keep watching.
Right.
And if you think about it, if you add a wood bat into that and the home runs get cut, by much, and you can say what you want with the ball, but it's still a wood bat. You still have to hit it so much harder.
I agree.
To make it leave the park. And I'm saying this as a pitcher, it's as a non-baseball fan too, you're gonna tune into Omaha because you want to watch Christian Moore hit one dead center at 118. You're not gonna tune into Omaha to watch Christian Moore fly out to before the warning track at 94. So it's tough. It's like wood bats would be cool, but what are we doing to the audience that tunes in for the home runs?
I also say that though, but our team's elite. There's no other way to put it. We're averaging, when we're not playing with squishy 8-10 balls, we're averaging over a home run a game. So
we are.
The homers aren't gonna go away.
Yeah.
But I do agree that it's going to be less. But I think there's just something that has to be done before, eventually at this point, somebody's going to get killed. 117 off the bat.
It absolutely is a safety issue. I couldn't agree more. You think about if whoever, I forget the pitcher's name that gave up that homer yesterday, but think about if that ball, that launch angle is a couple degrees down.
More down, yeah.
He is not alive right now, and it'd be a tragic day for baseball the day that happens.
I think now I agree with that, but with the development of these college programs, the guys are going to be strong regardless. So I think that even if they do, they're not gonna, but even if they do bring wood bats to college baseball, you're not going to see 117, but you're going to see 110 plus. Oh, absolutely. Right?
No, you watch Giancarlo Stanton, he's still hitting the ball 120. It's
that's
just
what I'm
consistent.
saying. Yeah. Exactly. Now let me ask you a question. If Giancarlo hit a ball at the launch angle right at a pitcher's head, isn't that a factor? They can't change anything in the major leagues.
Yeah, but we just got new StatCast data on swing velocity, swing speed.
True.
Giancarlo's 101. There's nowhere.
That is also true. He is in this conversation, you've got everyone else, and then you've got Giancarlo Stanton's.
True.
He's the only
ability to swing a bat. He's
the only one averaging over 80 miles an hour barrels.
Right.
And that's freakish.
But it is a good question. It's as time goes on, we're starting to see these freak athletes at younger ages. Let's think about Jack Caglione. We've got a dude that is hitting 35 plus homers every year and can throw 98 from the left side. It's these dudes are coming straight from labs.
Right.
And you think about as the game keeps progressing, technology keeps progressing. We're gonna keep seeing more of these people. And the scary thing is for right now, Giancarlo is one of one. But I feel pretty confident in saying that in 20 years, there's going to be many guys that are going to be able to do that.
You put 80 or what? How much does De La Cruz weigh? You put 45 pounds of muscle in Ellie De La Cruz. He's Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah,
he's Giancarlo Stanton who can switch hit.
Yeah.
Right.
And throw 100 across the infield.
Right.
And has freaking 99 overall speed.
How? That's my how does that happen? We're seeing these players of this level come around more and more.
No, we could switch into the MLB game now. The MLB game is as good as it's ever been. The pitch clock, I think, a lot of pitchers, a lot of hitters hate it. I think it's fantastic for the game.
I agree.
The speeding of the game.
Too.
Yeah.
And there are some absolute freak of nature dudes right now. Ben Joyce, Ellie De La Cruz, O'Neal Cruz, Skeens.
The best pitching prospect we've ever seen.
Don't get me started on
Skeens.
Skeens.
And even he might not be the best rookie pitcher on his team. Jared Jones is gross.
I know. They both have thrown the hardest fastballs for starting pitchers, and they're in the same rotation.
Yeah, the game of baseball is just in such a great. I think the only thing that's going to limit us is the injuries, but I honestly think it's inevitable. My arm is not meant to go 100 miles an hour.
I agree.
And I've kind of accepted it at this point in most pitchers, unless I might have been. I've never had an MRI of my arm. I've had an MRI of basically everything else in my body. Unless you are born with an absolute rope as a UCL, you're going to tear it. Like, it's just,
at some
it is
point.
what it is.
I mean, our bodies weren't made to do, one, the movement that pitchers' arms are doing, and two, at the intensity that pitchers' arms are throwing. So, I mean, it's just like, enjoy it while you can, you know?
But do you think in the future, the technology will be able to figure out a way for pitchers to throw 100 without getting hurt? Because I pray to God it doesn't happen, but I'm kind of betting that Skeens gets hurt in the next 7 years.
So the thing with Skeens is he didn't pitch. So he has so few pitches on his arm that I bet he lasts longer than most people do. There's just only so much you can do to change human anatomy. I mean, my dad's an orthopedic surgeon, so like, he's like, there's just like a lot of guys are just gonna throw safely. Like you watch Aroldis Chapman throw 105 for years. I bet he has an absolute rope of a UCL.
Yeah,
and so there's only so much you can do to change human anatomy. And I think it's just gonna be kind of like, I think pitchers are honestly gonna turn into more of like running backs in the NFL. Of just, you're going to burn out at some point. Now, the thing with pitchers
is... So just get what you can out of us.
Yeah, well, the thing is, pitchers, you can usually come back from UCL injury. I mean, some of them can, some of them can't. I mean, we got a teammate right now, Jay O'Neill, struggling with it.
Right.
But I've also seen one of my East Cobb Academy teammates, Jax Phillips, come back from it and come back better than ever. He's up to 94. He's going to Georgia. So, like, I think it's just, you have to be so serious about recovery to, one, keep your UCL intact and keep everything intact. And then once it... for most people inevitably tears, you have to be so serious about your recovery.
Right.
And you can come back better. This is not a plug for anybody to go get a Tommy John just to throw harder. It does not work like that.
That is not what we are not promoting Tommy John surgery right now.
It does not work like that. But no, I mean, for sure, like, it's just, the game is in such a good place, especially, I mean, we have so many fun personalities watching. I wish he was better, and I wish he didn't get hurt, but like Ronald Cooney Jr. is... he is exciting to watch.
There's just so much talent that, like,
it's
just like must-watch TV. Like, you think about, I mean, it's like we were just talking about Skeens. Like, I guarantee you 95% of, like, the people who love baseball tuned into his debut. I mean, it's just...
100%.
You absolutely, you want to watch a guy go out there and throw 103 and dice people up. And then you've got the Acuñas of the world, the Ellie De La Cruzes, who can throw a 104-mile-an-hour relay throw and then hit a ball 500 feet in the same game, you know? I mean, you've got just some ridiculous talent, and I mean, even in the college game, you look at Tennessee's team right now. Shout out you, Nate. I mean, they have just got some dudes that are, I mean, just must-watch TV all the time.
Right.
And I think that's what's making baseball so fun to watch right now. Is, and especially you two. We've got you two coming into the game. We've got all the guys that are your age that can throw hard, hit the ball far. It's just, you know, I mean, there's just so much talent that's entering the game. I think it's just making it, and I think baseball's at an all-time high at both levels right now.
1,000%, yeah.
For sure.
I mean, you look at our class, we got some absolute freaks. Miguel Cime throwing 102. He just turned 17. He's topping 102.
Yeah, I mean, you guys remember Bryce Petty, too, a couple years ago? He was another 100-plus
Chase Petty.
Chase Petty. Yeah, that was actually Chase Petty.
Yeah. He's in Chattanooga right now with the Chattanooga Lookouts.
Is he?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's him and Rhett Lauder in the same lineup.
That's absurd.
Yeah,
I got to watch Ellie, so that was a lot of fun.
That is awesome.
Yeah. I was just gonna ask. This would be my last question. Is you know, from a hitting standpoint,
not a very good hitter.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, in terms of you know, because it's kind of a hitting and pitching thing where, you know, as you know, players continue to evolve. Do you think they'll ever move the mound back?
No.
No, they can't because they've been throwing at the same distance for this long.
Right.
I think. I mean, you're talking about injury. Your arm having to adapt to another
mound,
massive change like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good idea in turn, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say. But I just think, I mean, there's so much adaptability in the game, and having to change something that drastic. I think, you know, talk about injury. I think that could only make that worse.
Right.
It would kill baseball for 5 years because. You are used to hitting at 60 feet.
Right.
Imagine me or Cooper throwing a curveball and we get an extra 2 feet of movement.
Yeah. That's fair. That's very fair.
And so nobody's going to be able to catch. So pitching will well outdo hitting for the first 5 years.
You think?
Because the extra movement we would get, the eyes would not be able to.
So that's interesting because I think for me as a hitter, it's more the speed than the movement of the pitch.
I get it, but at the MLB level, that ball is moving so fast and it's moving so much. You give them an extra, even you move that mound back a foot, 2 feet, you're giving them an extra foot of movement. That ball is going to just absolutely take off.
So, yeah, I mean,
and think about those two seams that go, right, they go from 96 to 94, but they get 2 more feet of arm side run. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like,
the thing is that, you know, is 100 flat harder to hit than 96 moving?
You would know that question better than I would.
That's a great question for you, Nate.
The thing is, I've never hit 100.
I personally would love to throw 96 with movement. That's the real question.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we could look at it stats wise. 100 with that's flat. You throw it middle. Hitters are still hitting under 220 against it. So I would say a lot of it's velo, but I still think you get that extra. I just feel like it would kill the game of baseball for a little bit. Just the adjustment period would be so negative for the fan base. You would have to bring back like a steroid era. Like you would have to do something.
Steroids saved baseball. I'll stand on that.
I agree too.
That's a solid take. Barry Bonds is the greatest player of all time.
Put him in the hall.
Exactly. But I think it would just make the games so different that it just can't. I think fastballs would become easier to hit for sure. Because, I mean, however much you move a fastball, I mean, unless you're Dustin May, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But I feel like you're hitting a slider that gets an extra. And especially, like, you look at the movement of a slider, it's exponential. So I don't know how much calculus you've taken. But
Hell no.
It's moving more and more and more and more the farther it gets to the plate. Because of how the pressure differentials and seam shifted weight. And I could go on a whole tangent about that. I'm a physics nerd. But I think it would just be so hard to hit any breaking pitch. And the game's already moving so far away from fastballs. I mean, the Red Sox are throwing under 30% fastballs. Like,
dang,
and so
that hurts.
And that would be a great statistic to pull up is because moving the mound back would be maybe beneficial for hitters of a team that threw mostly fastballs. But then
everybody's throwing breaking balls.
A team would get a hold of that, and all of a sudden people are throwing 75% sliders and changeups opposed to their 25% fastball rate. You know what I mean?
I think that, you know, as a hitter, unfortunately, I think that if you throw majority off-speed pitches, you're most likely going to get us out. You know, because honestly, as a hitter,
I throw 50% fastballs, and I throw 93, and I don't throw more fastballs than I throw breaking balls.
That's unfortunate, right? Like that hurts. That hurts as a hitter.
It's like, what does a hitter even do? He's not going to rear back and blow 93 by you. He's going to
I mean, I'm throwing
drop his 82 mile an hour slider in.
Yeah, I'm throwing an 83, 84 mile an hour slider, and I'm throwing a 77, 78 mile an hour curveball, and then I'm throwing you a splitter. Like, I'm throwing you something in on your hands.
See, like...
And, I mean, I faced our lineup.
What are you supposed to do, Nate? What are you supposed to do?
That's the thing.
You got a ball moving like this. You got a ball moving 12-6. Like, I got 9-3, 12-6, and I'm in on your hands.
That's what I'm saying.
The art of tunneling right there.
Yeah, right?
Is as a hitter, you know, you're always looking to hit the fastball. But as the game
you're not getting fastballs.
Exactly.
You don't get fastballs, Mr. UT commit.
Like, you're the 3-hole hitter on the number 1 team in the nation. You're not getting fastballs.
It hurts, bro. It hurts. I'm telling you. Well, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you for coming on the cast, man.
Man.
I think that's a great way to conclude, boys. I appreciate you, Bridges. Thank you for setting it up. And
thank you, man.
That'll do it, boys.